G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life, and welcome to the sunny Auckland, where I'm here to compare my modified manual Accord with this very nice modified automatic Accord. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these two Accords with basically the same engine and basically the same modifications go with different transmissions. In terms of those modifications, they're actually surprisingly similar. Both are lowered, except this one is on Hardrace Coilovers, mine is on Tein S lowering springs, and they both have aftermarket 18-inch wheels. The other cosmetic differences, I suppose, between them is that this one is a JDM Type S model, whereas my one is a New Zealand market Euro S model. In terms of engine modifications, they are also basically exactly the same. This car has a K24A2. It's a 148 kilowatt, 233 Newton meter K24 that the JDM market Accord's got. My one, on the other hand, has basically the same engine, but it's the K24A3, which from factory made a little less power, about 140 kilowatts, so 8 less than this, and 223 Newton meters, so 10 Newton meters less than this. And there are some other subtle differences between them, like for instance, this is electric power steering and mine is hydraulic power steering, but in general they start off as being basically the same engine. And then from there, both of them have a very similar design of cold air intake that gets the pod filter right down here into the bumper. Both of them have a PLM header, both of them have a Yonaka Catback exhaust, and both of them are tuned. And if you would like to get your car tuned to increase the red line to nearly 8,000 RPM and drop your VTEC to 4,500 RPM and help make a whole lot more power and torque in the process, then hit up KFlash New Zealand. I'll have the link to his Instagram page down in the description. The interior, surprise, surprise, is very similar as well. The steering wheel is exactly the same, but one nice thing about this is it has a few extra features in here. It's got stuff like auto lights that my car doesn't have, and it also has had an aftermarket stereo down here put in so you can have your navigation and Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and whatever other stuff. The other slight difference is that the layout of the gauges is identical to mine, because of course both of these cars are facelifts, but the JDM ones had a really nice looking red backlit gauge cluster rather than the blue backlit gauge cluster. The seats are slightly different as well. This one has a sort of part leather seat, which I really like, whereas my one's just all the sort of suede type stuff. But in every other regard, the layout, the way all of the climate control works, the center console design and everything is all pretty much exactly the same across the two models. So now I guess it's time to get them out and see which one is the fastest. Alrighty, so he's going to be in second gear because his ratios are a bit long, and I'm going to be in third. Let's see what happens. And 3, 2, 1, go. He did have the slight advantage of a maybe slightly shorter second gear, but mate, he had me. 3, 2, 1, go. Man, these things are close. Holy moly. Even I'm surprised, mate. Like, I started right in VTEC that time from a little bit faster, and he was still right there. Driving the automatic modified Accord Euro. That feels really similar to mine. Actually, amazingly similar. Like, first gear sounds and feels exactly the same. But as VTEC comes in a little lower, oh man, this thing goes, oh wow. And the other nice thing is now the transmission is tuned as well. It's a lot more responsive just in D. You just put your foot down, just immediately kicks down and gets up and goes. In terms of how these cars drive differently, obviously the transmission is one. The other thing I noticed, the steering is really dead. My one has way better steering feel. This feels kind of like the Euro R steering. It's just massively over assisted. And it's kind of annoying, if I'm honest, because I know what the car's going to do because I own one, but I don't know what the car's going to do because it doesn't give me any feedback. But of course, this one being modified, it drives so much better than a stock one. And man, it goes. You can rev match downshifts, yes! I don't care that it's automatic. this drives just as well as mine, without question. I mean, if you like the manual, then by all means modify a manual one. But if you want that driving experience, but with the ability to just put it in D and drive to and from work without the annoying heavy clutch and so on to deal with, an automatic one like this will be absolutely fine. I thought the automatic would make it feel like it's missing something, but it doesn't, because it's a really involving automatic gearbox where it upshifts quickly. You can rev match your own downshifts and so on, even down into first. And yes, the gear ratios are really long, but it makes power and is able to push through, and you can just feel, even in second gear, when you put your foot down, just how much torque it has. While it's obviously really nice to have a manual transmission, this auto one has really impressed me, where with the same mods it is still fantastic to drive. Driving the manual Accord Euro. Obviously, you know, if you're building like a flippin' race car or something that you want to be really, really fast and engaging, or you want to do, you know, big power, like you want a turbo, or you want to supercharge it, then obviously the manual one is going to be the way to go. Now that my one has the short gears as well, it's just more engaging to drive, obviously, as you would expect. However, if you have an automatic Accord Euro, or you can't find a decent manual Accord Euro, and you're only planning on doing basic NA mods like a reflash, a header, an exhaust and an intake, like what I've done with mine, honestly, that automatic Accord Euro that I drove up in Auckland was one of the best cars that I've driven for the money. It rode really nicely. It sounded exactly the same as mine, i.e. fantastic, but you can rev match downshifts in it, which is just glorious, and made that automatic so much more engaging to drive. And yes, the gear ratios are long, but it still has the torque to push through. So there we go. Thanks for watching this episode of Kiwi Car Life. Oh, we love it. And if you want to see some of the other videos that I've done with my Accord, then click over here to see me comparing the two most popular ECU reflashes for this car, KFlash and Serge. And if you want to see me comparing it with a Euro R, then click over here, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next time.